I was really inspired last night and I couldn't sleep because my mind kept racing about today's episode. I was journaling. I did what I said I should do in the previous episode, which is I should do more stream of consciousness, 20-minute stream of consciousness journaling. And right before bed, when you shouldn't do that, I did it. And what happened was, as I was sleeping, as I was trying to sleep, I couldn't sleep because my brain kept coming up with all these new ideas for this show, for this episode, for this specific episode. And I'm really hyped. I'm really hyped to talk about what I'm going to talk about today. I think it's going to be a good one. So I made a video recently on TikTok and IG and everywhere. You know, my videos come out everywhere about treadmill friends versus sofa friends. And so let me explain what treadmill friends and sofa friends are if you don't know, and you might not. It's not a widely known concept, so you might not know. A treadmill friend makes you want to be better. You hang out with this friend and you feel inspired. You want to run on a treadmill. You want to get healthier. You want to start a business or put out more content or read more or learn more. You want to be better. That is a treadmill friend. Treadmill friends make you want to be better. And then there's sofa friends. When you hang out with sofa friends, you just feel drained. They make you want to relax and veg out. I have some friends and I don't really get along with them and I don't hang out with them as much as I used to. Because when I hang out with these friends, I feel stressed afterwards. I feel a bit irritated and I just want to lie in bed and watch a movie. That's a sofa friend. Or maybe they just put bad habits on you. But again, a sofa friend. So treadmill friends versus sofa friends. I think we all have both. And the reason I share this story is because I was thinking last night when I was trying to sleep about what this podcast is. And now I know this podcast is designed to be your treadmill friend. I want this podcast to be your treadmill friend. I want to be your treadmill friend. And I want this daily podcast that I'm doing to be your treadmill friend. So that's the intro. I want to be your treadmill friend. I want this podcast to be your treadmill friend. Anyway, today's episode is about shamelessly copying what works and the battle between Threads and Twitter. Yesterday was a big day. And I actually think there's a huge lesson in what happened. I know, and I'm very excited to share the lesson with you. But first, the news, the big news in the battle of Twitter versus Threads, Threads versus Twitter, Elon versus Zuck, is Twitter put in an ads revenue sharing program. So in order to be eligible, you have to have at least 5 million impressions on your posts in each of the last 3 months. You have to be verified as human, and you have to have Twitter Blue or be a verified organization. And honestly, it was crazy what happened because a bunch of creators got life-changing amounts of money. The Internet Hall of Fame account, that was the most paid one, and that got $107,000 for the last 3 months of posting. So that one account got $107K for 3 months of posting. And I think it only has that account, don't quote me on this, I think it only has 1.4 million followers. I looked yesterday and I if I remember correctly, it was 1.4 million. Others were getting several thousands of dollars and others were getting tens of thousands of dollars. And I don't think it's about the size of the account, but the quality of the followers, because it's an ads revenue sharing program. So like different accounts will have more costly ads on them based on what's being advertised and who's viewing. So, but anyway, like a lot of accounts made a lot of money. And here's the thing about Instagram, which just launched Threads. Instagram doesn't give revenue to influencers. So I think it seems unlikely that well, it seems unlikely that Threads will give ad revenue to their influencers. Instagram doesn't do it. Why would Threads, their company, do it? I mean, Threads really Meta's company, but yeah, it seems very unlikely. And what Elon did, or what Twitter did with this move, with the ads revenue sharing program, is they incentivize creators across the political spectrum to return to Twitter. I think there were a lot of people on one side of the spectrum who didn't like what Elon was saying, and they left Twitter. And those people like money. Everybody likes money. And they were big accounts who had a lot of views. And now they're incentivized financially to return to Twitter, to just keep doing what they were doing before. And I think that's great. I think that's cool that Twitter's giving back. Plenty of YouTube influencers make a living off the revenue that they get from YouTube, not with just sponsorships or launching their own products, but with like the ad revenue that they get. So this is a big move. And Mark Zuckerberg is great at copying. He's great at copying big moves and big products. But I think it's unlikely he'll copy this, because Instagram doesn't do this. So I think it's unlikely that this will be copied. And this brings me to my next part of the podcast, which this will be an interesting part, is copying. Look, everybody wants to be Steve Jobs, but being Mark Zuckerberg is much easier and still very lucrative. What do I mean by this? Steve Jobs, he is a true innovator, crazy innovator, inspiring innovator. I and so many other people wonder what the world would be like now if he didn't die as early as he did, because he was that much of a creative and revolutionary and one-of-a-kind thinker. And he didn't really copy. He invented. He was a true inventor. Now let's look at Mark Zuckerberg. Meta, I think it's $1 trillion company. And if it's not, it's almost there. Mark Zuckerberg copies. He copied stories from Snapchat. He copied Reels from TikTok. And he copied Threads from Twitter. And that's fine. These have been big features that have made Meta a lot of money. And I think there's a really big lesson in shamelessly copying other things that work. So here's a personal story. A couple of months ago, I made the most viewed video in the world on the Silicon Valley Bank collapse. I made the most viewed video in the world on the SVB collapse. Probably has 6 or 7 million views across all channels at this point. Maybe even more. And here's how I did it. So first, I make videos every day on TikTok. I've been doing that since November. I make, and these videos come out everywhere. So you see them on my Twitter, you see them on IG Reels, you see them on YouTube Shorts. They come out everywhere. And when the SVB collapse started happening, I had a bunch of friends who thought their businesses were going to lose all their money. And, in the startup tech world, this was the biggest news. And I said, this is a big trend. This is something that's like, you can't look away. And I'm going to go all in making content about this. So every day, all of my videos were just about the SVB collapse. And a bunch of them did quite well. And my friend sent me this viral tweet where this guy he used Bing Chat. He used Bing Chat, which runs on GPT-4. And he said to Bing Chat, describe the Silicon Valley Bank collapse in monkey banana terms. And its output, its generative output, was actually very amusing. And so he shared this on Twitter. And his post on Twitter got, I think, 600,000 views on Twitter. And I read that and I felt compelled to share it because it was great content. And so then I made a video, his was just a text post. I made a video on TikTok reading the output from GPT-4 from Bing Chat, saying this guy on Twitter asked Bing Chat, asked GPT-4 to describe the Silicon Valley Bank collapse in monkey banana terms. And this is what it said. And I read that. I read that output and then I described it. And that was it. That was the video. And that video got 10x more, maybe even more, than 10x the views than what the original post got. And so I told some guy this last night. I go to events every night here in New York. I don't know how much longer I'll be in the city for. I travel a lot. I like to travel, and so I'm taking advantage of being back here. And so I told some guy this last night that, and he seemed to really like this because he's a creator himself. I look for viral tweets. I look for viral tweets and trends because I can repurpose those with my face and it'll do very well. And I have no shame jacking great content. Really, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I try to find the most viral tweets in startups and technology and business. And then I make videos on those because oftentimes they do very well. And even though they're super viral on Twitter, people don't know them on TikTok. People don't know them on IG. People don't know them on YouTube Shorts. And I give those ideas more exposure. And sometimes people don't know where they originated and whatever, because everybody copies. And so if you think of a bad person, well, the treadmill sofa analogy at the beginning of this episode came from Sean Purry's newsletter. So I jacked that from Sean Purry's newsletter, but Sean Purry jacked that. He was quoting another dude on Twitter, this guy, George Mack. So he was quoting, so this guy, George Mack, comes up with the idea comes up with the analogy, the treadmill sofa friends. And then Sean Purry puts that in his newsletter. Then I make a video about that and use it in my podcast. It's all derivative. So here's another example. And here's where it happened to me. And so it happened to me several times. And I described this in another episode. I will probably keep describing it because I think it's an interesting story. In January 2018, we made the first game in blockchain. We invented play to earn. Our game was called World of Ether. You can Google World of Ether press release. We made $500,000 in our first 48 hours, less than 48 hours, and $1 million by the end of the month. And I think 2 weeks after we launched, there was this company called Etherbots. They literally took all of our landing page, like everything. And the only thing that they changed was, instead of, like, we had monsters, they had these like very poorly designed robots. It's called Etherbots. And they made, I think, $1 million. And it literally, they just copied everything from our website except for the creatures, which were replaced with the robots. We were pissed. In retrospect, it's hilarious. And here's what's crazy. Off that success, they raised $2 million. I think it was from Coinbase that gave them $2 million. And then they came out with God's Unchained, which is a huge project in crypto and made tons of money. Here's another example. A few months after us, this company, Axie Infinity, which is now huge, so maybe you've heard of it, launched. And they took elements of our landing page and they took a bunch of our copy and a lot of our ideas. They launched, they made a lot less. They made, I think, like $250K initially, but they were able to raise And they just stuck with it when we didn't stick with our project because it was crypto winter. And Axie Infinity turned into a $3 billion company. Both companies, they were built off our ideas, our art, and our copy. And it is what it is. That's life. Here, okay, another example. I have friends who have had this legendary viral marketing agency. It's called Fuck Jerry. They invented the guy who holds up the cardboard sign. Fuck Jerry invented that. I have friends who have had that agency invest with money because they made so much of it in their companies. Fuck Jerry is huge. And Fuck Jerry started with a meme IG page where they just posted other people's viral content. In fact, they still do that, and they do that on every platform. You can look at their TikTok, which is huge, and it's just other people's viral content. At the end of the day, it's in the execution and not the idea. I want to say that again. Plenty of people have great ideas. It's just in the execution. That's why I say do things every day, because you get better. I think this episode is actually a lot better. My other episodes I thought were good. And now that I'm doing this episode, I think this episode is great. And it's inspiring because you can copy any great work that you love, put your own little spin on it, and have that be very meaningful and potentially lucrative for you. And not everyone's going to hear every idea. And even if they did, even if you redo Gangnam Style yourself, that's an interesting spin. And so I think there's this like desire that everybody wants to be Steve Jobs. And I want to end this podcast by saying you can be Mark Zuckerberg and still be a billionaire. So that's the end of the pod. Episode number 9 of the daily podcast. This is the Edwards Show. I'm Edward Sturm. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow.